Hi, friends. How are you doing? No, really, how are you doing? I'll tell you how I've been doing. Not great. I had 12 days in a row of migraine headaches, followed by 3 days of spacey um, side effects of my prescription migraine medication, followed by 3 days of apparently unrelated kind of neck, back, shoulder pain, pretty intense. Today is really like the first day in a while that I've felt like myself. It's kind of interesting how our bodies and our brains, our minds, I guess, can kind of betray us. Um, so I'm doing better. It's going better. Um, but it's been a rough little while. And incidentally, I should apologize for not doing a video in a while. But that stuff has kept me from it. It's a funny question. How are you? How's it going? How are you doing? Um, we ask it a lot, but we often don't answer it. I'm reminded of a friend who was not a native English speaker, although very fluent in English, but had, was a cultural transplant to Texas. And I noticed that every time I asked her, "How's it going?" or "How are you doing?" her response was, "How's it going?" Or "How are you doing?" Just to repeat it, as if "How's it going?" or "How are you doing?" or "How are you?" was a greeting, like "Hi." One day I told her that this was a funny way to respond to that, right? That I kind of clued her in that culturally speaking, the standard answer to "How's it going?" is sort of like "Good, how are you?" or something like that. Um, which, of course, reminds me that often our answer to that question is a polite lie, right? We say, we hear how's it going, and we don't want to get into it. We say doing all right, or fine, or hanging in there, right? Where we might or might not be, right? But that's the way you lubricate the gears of social interaction, right? Um, when my partner and I moved to Texas, very early on, she went to the grocery store and had an interaction that surprised her. Um, she, politely asked the cashier at the grocery store, "How's it going?" Right? Or "How are you?" And was surprised that the cashier at the grocery store answered her at length, honestly, right? Um, Shared her kind of troubles and what was going on in her life while checking her out. And um, Sabrina, who had lived many years in New York, found this a little shocking and off-putting, right? Um, so, um, but I kind of like that, right? I kind of like when you get that honest answer. And um, I admit I will sometimes selfishly, uh, I don't know if it's selfish, but I will sometimes unload that kind of full answer on people. Um, I've noticed that recently my students are pretty free or earnest with their answers to that question. I walked into the classroom on Monday after spring break, and I asked my students, "How's it going? Did you have a nice spring break?" And they were pretty honest that they had not had a nice spring break, that they were not doing well. Um, One of my students looked me dead in the eye and gave me a thumbs down. And I can tell you two friends are struggling. Andy And Rachel, from your most recent videos, I think we all are. My students, me, you all, some of us for very specific, particular reasons in our own lives. Some because of a great degree of empathy for those who are suffering in the world, and a great degree of anxiety about war and disease and various other hardships. So, it's a tough time. I think in the face of everything that's going on and the way in which many of us are struggling to reintegrate into the world after the way the pandemic has changed our lives, struggling to deal with the various threats that the news brings us on a daily basis. We need to figure out how to live and how to relate to one another in a caring, gentle way. I really enjoyed hearing from Rachel about the way in which we can kind of grow our empathy through engaging with literature, and how Rachel was thinking about her scholarship and teaching, her expertise, and how it could help in that sense. I've been really worried lately about some of the ways in which our skill set that we develop in the humanities it can be kind of toxic. One of the set of skills that we very highly develop as we train in the humanities, it goes by different names in different fields. We might call it the hermeneutics of suspicion, or paranoid reading, or oppositional reading, or just critical thinking. But there's a set of sort of critical practices which presume a lack of earnestness and a kind of hostile engagement, and proceed from that kind of position. And it's not that those things don't have a real value and a real power, but I think also there's a way in which they go too far. There's a way in which the constant practice of those attitudes prevents us from being earnest, prevents us from treating others as sort of earnest and honest, cooperative interlocutors. We treat them suspiciously. We treat them inhumanely in a way. And I worry about it. I worry about this effect, the effect of this attitude, and this set of practices taken too far. And I think, it has to be balanced. And I'm trying to think about in my own teaching, my own pedagogy, how practices of hopefulness and wonder and earnest engagement, caring, and dare I say love, can also be centered. Of course, the critique of injustice, the critique of power can be really necessary, really important, really powerful, and I don't want to deny that. John Green posted a video yesterday in which he said, resentment and fear and anger can be strong motivators, but they're a fuel that burns bright but dirty. There's a lot of problems with building on and creating on the basis of resentment and fear and anger, and I'm deeply concerned about that as well. I think we need another kind of motivation to work from. one that burns clean in John Green's terminology. This was not a scripted video. I don't have a really sharp ending in mind. This is just what I'm thinking about now that I'm finally getting back to the ability to think clearly. And I look forward to hearing more from you, friends, about what you're thinking about. See you soon.